If you don't like the way we do things here, you can leave. Okay. This is a little long. Sorry. When I was in college, I worked for a mobile carrier in a mall. For a young person, it was great money. I was the assistant manager, which was a fancy way of saying I was in charge of most of the store paperwork. A few months before, one morning, I opened by myself and a guy approached me asking for a specific phone and kept balking at the price. Asking if I could cut him a deal though. I was confident we were by far the cheapest in the area. So I told him, if you bring me a better deal, I'll beat it. The guy does another lap, talks to other stores, and comes back. Come on, there is nothing you can do? Can I just get a case? I smile and say, sorry, that's the best I can do today. But can I get your number in case we get a sale that brings the price down? This sometimes actually did work. His entire demeanor changed and he handed me paperwork out of his bag and showed me his ID. He was from corporate LP. Loss preventions. Apparently my store ranked top in the state for excessive discounts and excessive waste. He then hands me a document showing all of my friends and family discounts. So I flip open my phone. Yes, it still flipped, and showed him all the names on the list are in my phone. Thus are friends and family. He thanks me and says he'll stick around to talk to my boss and one other team member. Since smartphones aren't really a big thing at the time, the LP guy starts talking to me about my job, and I ask him a little more about what exactly flagged our store. Turns out the other two people he wanted to talk to had more than 30% of their transactions marked with that discount code, and our store seemed to lose lots of inventory. Store practice was that if you open an accessory and it was damaged in shipping, you just throw it away and grab another one. Turns out there is a process you need to follow. He showed me the form and said, you really should be between X and X a month to be considered average. He then interviews my boss and coworker who couldn't prove that their discounts were accurate and they were let off with a stern warning. From then on, I took on the responsibility of tracking inventory and warning the team when we were getting close to the monthly limit. Like a miracle, cases stopped breaking for the rest of the month with these announcements. Fast forward. I open by myself again one morning. An older gentleman approaches me and starts screaming at me about being a heartless bastard, and asking, how the hell can you do this to people? I look at him puzzled. Sir, I have no idea who you are, so you can't possibly be mad at me specifically. Let's go sit over there and have a quick chat. As soon as we sit down, I look at him and he starts crying and shaking. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna lose my house. He goes on to tell me his son had gotten 10 free phones from my store and the monthly bill was roughly $800 plus tax. Sir, if your son started an account with us, there is nothing I can do without him coming to the store. The dad shows me a photo in his wallet, and explains that his son lives in a home because he's too old to take care of him. He's visibly disabled. He was already barely getting by paying for his house plus his son to be taken care of. My heart dropped as I figured out what had happened. My coworker had sold the phones to his son while they were on a mall outing with his group home. Furious, I go back to the store and void the entire order. I instruct the dad to bring me every phone he can find. Anything not in the store that day would be marked as stolen. I write up the inventory report and mark all of those phones stolen for the time being. Coworker comes in and I say, don't bother clocking in. I saw your order from last night. Just know that it's voided. If you pull anything like that again, I'll make sure you're fired. Take the rest of the weekend off. He argues for a moment, but leaves 25 minutes later, and early for his shift. My boss shows up saying he heard what happened. I show him all of the paperwork and explain what I did to solve it. Irritated, he looks at me and says something like, "You know you can't do that, right?" Quote. He then argues with me that I had no right to void the order and the contract was the contract. Confused and angry, I say, "Look, I will not sit by and allow people to be taken advantage of like that." To which he replies, "If you don't like the way we do things here, you can leave." Shocked, I walk back into the store where he tells me he is taking care of all of the paperwork to fix my mess. Quietly I rip up my inventory report with a smile and tell him I'm leaving for the day. I call a friend who said, "Why don't you just get an IT job? What I was going to school for." He then calls a recruiter and sets up an interview for the next morning. Boss's little push gave me the drive to just go for it. I nailed the interview and get the job. My now ex-boss texted me shortly after and said, "Hey op, you're late." To which I replied, "No, I don't like the way you do things there." Silence. Backslash. Fast forward a few months. Both the boss and the coworker were fired for theft. You see, with the unexplained, missing phones and with no one watching inventory, LP quickly took interest in the store again. Turns out the broken cases were actually team members giving away inventory to close sales. So when I was there, balancing inventory and giving warnings, it was letting them know just how much they could steal and get away with it. Without me there, they just did whatever the heck they wanted. From what I hear, they were escorted out by security and all. So in the end, I was pushed to start the career of my dreams. They have a record. Thanks for sticking with me. Sorry it was so long. I prefer the longer posts, especially when they are as entertaining as this one. Thanks for sharing. As somebody who used to work in retail for 10 plus years, you handled a screaming, swearing person better than I ever could have. Good on you for saving that poor guy. Sounds like they got more bars when the interference was removed. The contract was the contract. There was no contract. Was there? You would need a meeting of the minds. And from the description, it sounds as if the people at the group home were not able to transact business on their own. It would be like selling a phone to an 8-year-old. They're incapable of entering into legally binding contracts. At least, not for such sums if it's like here in Germany. There's a pocket money exception that lets them legally purchase things in the price range a child typically handles, e.g. buying a bottle of lemonade or a burger, but not a phone. All it would take is for the father to go to the press. Especially TV stations that focus on local issues, and corporate would send people scarier than LP. As the father of a 22-year-old who lives in a group home and cannot control his spending, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your actions here. We have to strictly limit his access to cash because if he has money, he will spend it, mostly on snacks and video games and DVDs. Chef's kiss. Beautifully done, my friend. I'll always stick with you, bro. Good story. Hey op, you're late. No, I don't like the way you do things there. Chef kiss. That was so interesting I couldn't stop reading and not find out the outcome. It didn't seem to be too long. Definitely held my interest. Good job on all counts. If the father had conservatorship of his disabled son, that contract was useless. But even without that, you did the obvious right thing. And that makes me happy. Thanks for watching out for an often abused community. Ha. I used to do LP for a cell company back in the early 2000s. This brought back memories. Good on ya. Reminds me of my husband's career story. He was working a horrible, dead-end job at a call center answering calls for over 40 different businesses and was the only person on his shift pattern that was experienced with all of them. Yeah, he was there for too many years. He loved IT but was totally self-taught and had no qualifications. Management at the crappy job basically tried to get him fired for fixing someone's computer in work time. He worked nights. That someone was a frickin' manager. Anywho, that prompted him to take a chance on an entry-level IT job, and 10 years later he just got promoted to a role he still didn't think he'd get just a couple of years ago. So proud of him. The old place? We were told they ended up hiring 4 people to replace him, and today the company is less than half the size it used to be. Happy days. D. You're a good guy. Bending the rules a little bit now and then. Okay. But actually breaking them always gets you in trouble in the end. I used to work in a phone shop, and these types of audit were called compliance audits. So this really is malicious compliance. A few years back my wife and I upgraded phones and signed new contracts. The store advertised that they would gladly recycle old phones in the proper, safe, environmentally friendly way, and since her phone was actually broken, we just handed them over. I had wiped and locked mine cause mine was functional, but hers wouldn't charge because of salt water corroding the connectors. I figured it was dead, so why worry? 2 weeks later a woman calls me and asks for my wife's unlock code. So not only had the sales guys managed to get a charge into her dead phone and then sold it to this poor woman, but they gave her my cell number to get the password. Those are private. Anyway, they got in big trouble and I got an iPhone upgrade. I also learned to always brick your old phones. I've never seen a cell phone store where some fuckery wasn't happening like this. Long? This is a story sub. Good stories are appreciated. This was a good story and well written. Beautifully done. Sure. I have no idea who you are. So you can't possibly be mad at me specifically. Let's go sit over there and have a quick chat. Man. You Tai Chi'd the shit out of that one. Gonna keep that in my back pocket.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.